Ladies and gentlemen, it's primetime, grind time, up and down, all night long at your mama's house. I'm your host, Listedez. Today I'm going to show you a few of my favorite places to loot, depending on your playstyle, and give you a few tips that'll help you save time and keep you alive while gathering your pixels. Okay, so the way I see it, there's three different types of looters in the land of PUBG. They are the Savage, the Gambler, and the Mouse. Each one of these styles is unique and has its own perks. Now let's start by showing you gentlemen my style, the Savage. The Savage lifestyle is simple. You drop where you want, regardless of how many potential enemies are coming with you.
Oh, we're gonna fucking bang!
Oh my god.
You fight until everyone is dead, and all the loot is yours. When I play with my regular group of guys, we drop non-stop at the military base. Coming away alpha from high loot locations will generally yield more loot and put you closer to that chicken dinner. Now, most savages listening to this will already be tab looting and know what loot to prioritize to save time. But here are two helpful tips you may not have considered. Remember when dropping to take in your surroundings. Notice where other players are landing and make a plan to eliminate the ones closest to you as soon as you found a weapon. Getting a gun quickly and hunting the enemies in your AO can pay off, as you'll catch a lot of players off guard while they're looting. Another tip while looting in highly trafficked areas is to observe the direction of open entrance doors in the buildings around you. A door will always open away from the player. This makes it pretty easy to determine what direction the player was headed when he opened it. This kind of information can help you determine whether your enemy has entered or exited from this location. This is useful to help establish your enemy's current position, so that you can position yourself in a way to capitalize from their movement. Here are my favorite Savage drop locations. The military base. I usually drop in the building that's located under the K in Sosnovka. It has a lot of weapon and armor spawns, and I find it a pretty good place to get started.
Anything to say for yourself? You fucked up.
The school. Fight the horde and then dip east into the apartments. Pochinki. Digit's mom's house. The house is located here on the east side of the main road in Pochinki. The third floor of this allows players to gain access to the rest of the rooftops on the east side, which can be great for gaining the upper hand on your opponents. The Gambler. The Gambler travels long distances to high loot locations that are out of the main trajectory of the plane. The Gambler's biggest enemy early game is the blue zone, but occasionally he'll need to fight other gamblers. The Gambler strategy can pay off big time when the circle RNG is in your favor. Otherwise, you might find yourself scrambling around in a massive unlooted city with only a minute or so before you start getting melted by the zone. With that being said, one of the most important rules of being a gambler is that you must establish transportation before you start looting. My favorite gambler locations, depending on where the plane is headed, are places like Yazapolana, South Military Island, and North Georgia Pole. 2 tips for the modern day gambler. Drop as soon as possible and look for transportation. Having your feet on the ground and in a whip early will pay off later on. Slow shooting can be also a very effective method of travel, but often takes longer than just finding a car and driving. Remember when looting as the gambler to pay close attention to the circle location and the amount of time you have left to loot. Consider how long it'll take you to get back across the map to safety. Keep in mind the amount of meds you gathered and how much blue zone damage you can afford to heal through. The Mouse. The Mouse just needs enough loot to survive. He isn't looking to fight anyone unless he really has to, or feels he has a very good opportunity for a shot at some guaranteed cheese. The Mouse doesn't need an insane amount of loot, because he chooses his engagements very cautiously. All he needs is enough loot to kill the next few players he sees to increase his cheese stash. An important part of being the Mouse is being able to be mobile when needed. That's why I've chosen these 4 routes specifically, because they are the areas with the highest probability of vehicle spawns that are less trafficked by players. The North Circuit. When dropping up north, my favorite route is here. located south of the firing range. I like to kick things off by establishing some transport. One of the best and most highly underrated items you can acquire in PUBG is a vehicle. Finding your wheels first will save you time, so you can focus on looting instead of frantically running around being melted by the blue zone looking for one as an afterthought. According to the interactive PUBG map in the description below, there are at least 5 vehicle spawn locations within close proximity to this route. I usually start by grabbing a vehicle along the road that runs north of the route. Most often there is a freshly washed beauty with half a tank west of the gas station. But I'd also like to point out that there is a vehicle spawn located here at the triangular compound on the west end of the route. If you're coming in from that direction and see the spawn is up, starting there is a good option as well. Otherwise, once I have my transport, I usually start here on the east side. I loot these small buildings and then move into the compound with a 3-story building. I loot this and take about 20 seconds on the top to address my surroundings and consider what my approach will be for the next circle. From here, I head west to the triangular compound to finish up. I find the loot I take from these compounds adds up to be enough for a solo player in his first engagements or to sustain the damage from the first blue zone. Here's the loot I got from the first couple example runs I did for you gentlemen. In example 1, I managed to piece together a fully attached SCAR with a red dot sight and about 200 rounds of 5.56. I found a tier 2 helmet and vest with a handful of boosts but no first aid. In the second example, I had a great tier 3 RNG roll and found suppressors for both AR and sniper, as well as a tier 3 vest and full attachments for my M4. That was pretty awesome, but the one thing about the routes is that you never know how RNG is going to play out, and a lot of times you may get a lot of one thing and very few of another. In this case, the suppressors and armor were great, but I was limited on range optics and meds. West. The west drop is cool because of a building I like to call the Observatory, located here. The top portion of this building has a lot of spawns and is only accessible by parachuting in. A buddy of mine was convinced he could crawl in there, but he got stuck and I had to shoot him in the gut so he could crawl out and be revived. The observatory building is prime for assault and sniper rifles, and occasionally you can scoop up some tier 3 loots. There are several vehicle spawns located within 100 meters northwest and northeast of the observatory building along the road. Go down the hill north from the observatory building, loop these 2 buildings, and grab your whip. Head northwest from here to this compound. An alternative route depending on circle, enemy traffic, or building preference is to go straight north to the compound located here. Both are good options and have enough loot to easily sustain a solo player and can be looted in under 5 minutes. Here are a few examples of loot that I grabbed from doing this route. In this first example, I opt to go northwest once I get my vehicle and loot the small cottages. I come out with 2 ARs, M4 and AK, both with limited attachments and about 130 rounds for each. I was unable to find a vest but did manage to grab a tier 2 helmet and a decent amount of meds. For the next 2 examples, I decided to head straight north to the alternate compound. Here I was able to scrounge up and almost fully attach an M416. I also found a sniper rifle, a decent amount of body armor, and some meds to sustain me through at least one engagement or the first blue zone. This is the loot from all 3 runs. Each run was completed in under 5 minutes to give time for circle preparation. East. The east drop is a quick run down the coast through these 4 compounds. You can easily find a vehicle located here, as indicated on the PUBG map. When shooting, I scan for vehicles but also for other players. If no one lands close to me, I will usually start here at these 2-story houses. Loot the house below and then hit the compounds along the coast before ending up here as my final destination. I like this East Coast route and find that the majority of the time I get pretty strapped from running it solo. Here are the examples of what I came out with. In example 1, I managed to find an AK and a Mini 14 with a boatload of ammo for both. I got no love in the range optics category, finding only a holo and an RDS, but found 4 medkits, a couple of boosts, full tier 2 armor, and a tier 3 bag. In example 2, I found 2 ARs, a SCAR and an AK, as well as 2 ranged optics, a 2 and 4 times to go with them. Again, we scooped a nice amount of meds, but we were limited on ammo, but still managed to come out with full armor. Overall, I found enough loot that I was able to easily engage my next few targets successfully, and take everything they had presumably worked very hard fighting for. South. When the mouse is feeling brave, he heads to his choice of illustrious compounds located south of the military base on Sosnovka Island. One of these compounds will get you fed, and 2 will get you strapped. This route gets more attention from other players compared to the other routes, but since there are multiple vehicle spawns to choose from, this usually isn't a problem. Depending on player traffic, I typically start here, and loot this middle compound before taking my wheels west to this spot. Once I'm geared up, I head north to the bridge and try to pick off anyone coming out of the military base. Here are the loot examples from my runs in the south. Example 1. On my first run, we came out with a decent amount of attachments and meds, full tier 2 armor, a mini 14 and pump shoddy. This is the loot from only one of the 2 compounds I hit up in my run. It took me about 3 minutes to loot this compound at a casual pace, which left me with another 3 minutes to loot the other compound before I had to race the blue zone. For the second run, I hit up both compounds in the 5-minute time frame. The loot was pretty decent considering that I was able to scoop a tier 3 helm with a 4x scope and multiple attachments. I had a handful of boosts and a full medkit, but was limited on ammo. Some tips for the mouse. If you aren't already tab looting, you need to be. It's as simple as hitting tab, taking the items you want and drag dropping them somewhere in the middle of your tab window, like so. Bam. Next tip, and most important, is that when you're shooting in, be aware of the enemies dropping close to you. Many times with the mouse, you'll have to make slight deviations in your route because some jerk has decided to land near your stash. If this happens, just get your wheels together and add another compound to your route that isn't far out of the way. Alright guys, I am the savage through and through, but I enjoy the gambler strategy, especially when I'm looking to just relax after maybe a few intense matches or just playing with some people that can't handle the dangers of the savage lifestyle. Between all 3 strategies, I feel that the gambler brings me home the most chicken dinners. Alright gentlemen, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what style of looter you are in the comment section down below. Cheers.
He's knocked out. He's right across from you east at Darnell, at that next fucking fence on the inside of it somewhere. Coming out with you?
What is it?
Nice.